Good morning and welcome back to the workshop. Let me turn that down a bit. My shop is an absolute tip at the minute and I've got loads of stuff to tell you, so I thought it would be a really good opportunity for a bit of a vloggy update, and I can update you on everything in one video because so much stuff's going on. A massive thank you to all of my new Patreon supporters and all my existing Patreon supporters as well. As a big thank you, there's a new pricing video, a big job pricing video for an alcove unit job that I was working on, and a bit of a price guessing challenge on there as well, where you can see if you can work out what I would have charged for a particular job. I'll give you all the specs of the job and then you can pop in the comments on Patreon and see what you think that job should have cost, and then I will tell you what the job actually costs a customer, and I'll give you a complete breakdown of all the job costings and whatnot as well. Anyway, so where to start? So many things have been happening. I've been working on another display system as part of my joinery business, and it was a bigger kind of display, well, several display units, and they take up a lot of space in my tiny little shop. And once you get these all built and you're painting them and there's just nowhere to move, and it was to the point where to get from one side of the workshop to the other side of the workshop, I literally had to kind of climb underneath benches and over the top of benches and all sorts just to try and get moved. And then once everything's painted and you're waiting on paint to dry, you can't move anything because you don't want any dust to land on the freshly painted things. So that's always a bit of a challenge, but got there, got it done. Out the door to the offices where these were finally going to kind of live, and happy customer. And I've got another even bigger version of that to do. I have literally no idea how I'm going to fit all that in this space. Do you remember a little while ago I made a new whiteboard for in my studio room, and it was made kind of all nice and rustic looking with some old scaffold board bits for the frame, and I made the whiteboard itself out of sticky back whiteboard plastic. Well, I like to admit to my mistakes on this channel because that's how we learn. And unfortunately, that whiteboard, all the paper started peeling off it. All the whiteboard film started peeling off. And I knew it wasn't the whiteboard film to blame because I've used it many times before and it's never done that before. And I couldn't really work out what the problem was. I mean, the stuff that I had, this is the whiteboard film. It's really amazing stuff. You know, it works very well. It's very expensive, but it was left over from a commercial job. It had been sitting around the workshop for a long time, and I don't know if you can see, filming white things is always impossible, but it was all kind of coming off the roll and things, but I wasn't convinced that that's what the problem was. And so what I did, I took it all off the whiteboard and I stripped it right back to the bare wood, and I noticed there was a strip going all the way down on the wood, right in the place where the paper was coming off the backing board. So I can only think that there was some sort of impurity in the backing board or something causing it not to stick properly. At first I thought it was something to do with the contraction and expansion of the wood, but this stuff, I mean, it's pretty flexible. This can handle thermal expansion no problem, so it shouldn't have been that causing the issue. And I think it was down to some sort of impurity in the wood going all the way down. It was just like a cheapy hardboard backing that I used. So what I did was I sanded it all down, got it all clean, gave it a wash down, and then I primed the backing board, and then I reapplied new whiteboard paper from the same batch. It was still old stuff with wrinkles in and all sorts. Reapplied new stuff over the primer, and it seems to be spot on now. So lesson learnt there. I would say if you're going to use this sticky back whiteboard paper, prime the surface you're putting it onto first. Don't put it onto bare wood. For most part it was fine, but whatever impurities there were on that particular piece of wood, maybe something had been spilt down it, I don't know. It's all sorted. Bit of a ball ache to sort out, but it's fixed. Me whiteboard's as good as new, or as good as a new old looking rustic whiteboard should be. Let me show you around the shop and I'll show you all the projects that are going on at the minute, all the things that I need to sort out. I'll show you them in a minute. Okay, welcome to the shop. It's a tip. I'll talk about my new compressor in a minute. Wood that I took down to get to something else that I haven't had time to even put back up yet. All these, check these out. These are from my daddy's house, and unfortunately when he passed away many years ago, 24 years ago, and now my mum's off into a home, so I'm left with the task of clearing a house out, which unfortunately it probably comes to all of us, and it's not a particularly pleasant job. But these have sat in, let me come around this side where it's a bit brighter. If you ever wonder where I get the OCD from, my dad was meticulous with his organisational skills. Let me grab, there's just loads of these boxes I need to sort through, because I'd quite like to keep the boxes, even though most of the contents are like rusty old bolts and stuff. Some of it's probably quite handy to keep, but a lot of it is stuff that I would just very, very rarely use. Or maybe what I might do is just put them all in a tub out of the road. They don't need to be as easily accessible, because I would like to put these maybe on the wall or something, because I think they're wall mountable. These are great, look. So each one is wall mountable with a little keyhole thing, and they all, look, they all interlock with each other. Can you see? I've never seen those before. These have sat untouched for 25 years at my mum's house, and as I say, a lot of rusty old screws. A lot of it can just go in the bin, but a lot of it's still usable, you know, nails. A lot of them are rusted. But as I say, I'd quite like to keep hold of these containers and make use of them. So hopefully you'll see a reappearance of these in the workshop somewhere at some point when I get time to sort them out. I'm finally sorting out the dust extraction situation in this shop. So I've got myself a little, it's like the 63mm dust extraction kit from Axminster, and hopefully that's enough to get started. I didn't buy all the components individually because I would rather just have a big pack of stuff that I can kind of make up as I go, and then I'll buy anything else extra later down the line, because I'll not have enough in this to do the whole shop, but it's enough to get started, and then I don't have to think about it as much. With that sort of stuff, I'd rather think about it as I go rather than trying to plan every bit out. The main things that I want to do is get my table saw hooked up to a permanent dust line rather than it being on a flexi hose straight into my dust collector, and I'd also like a blast gate and the tail coming off, hopefully coming straight down the middle of the room, somewhere in kind of the centre there, so that when I want to just hook up the track saw to the D27 hose, it's just dangling in the middle of the room, and I no longer have to disconnect the table saw to use dust collection on the track saw. That'd be nice. I've also got new workshop lighting. Oh, this has been a long time coming. So these are LED panels. Peter Millard did an excellent video all about these. I'll put a link in the description, but they're just big, flat, light making things. The problem with the lighting in this workshop at the minute, especially for doing videos, is that I've got these baton type lights here, and I've got the spotlights over there, which were just kind of temporarily put in because it was all I had. And then I've got this video light here, and then I've also got these kind of workshop under counter light things over here, and every single one of them is a different colour temperature. These are supposed to be cool white, but they're not. They're more of a warm white, or they're certainly a warm white compared to the spotlights. The video light is really cool, and then the lights at the back here are really warm white, so I've got this kind of horrible mixture of light going on, and it just doesn't work very well for filming. So every piece of light in the shop that you can currently see is going to go, and I'm just going to have LED panels, all cool white, and it's going to be awesome. That's an aeroplane, stocked up on cleaning materials and Blue Roll. Still haven't talked about them. I finally bought a new grinder, because my trusty little Black & Decker, which isn't plugged in, but you'll just have to trust me that it's very, very low powered and has a tiny wheel, and it's about 50 years old, 60 years old, I don't know. It was a hand-me-down from my dad, and it's good for sharpening drill bits, so I'm not going to get rid of it. It's really good for sharpening drill bits, but not great for chisels and all that sort of thing. So I needed a new grinder, and I also wanted like a metal polishing wheel, not a polishing wheel, but what would you call it? That sort of wheel. And the other thing that I've been saving up for, and I've been wanting to sort out for a long time, is a proper CBN wheel as well. CBN wheels are very pretty. And to be honest, what triggered it, I saw Stumpy Nubs had put out an excellent video all about CBN grinding wheels on his channel. I shall link to it in the description. As I say, I've been wanting to sort this grinder out for a long time, and I thought, well, let's kill two birds with one stone. Get the CBN wheel that I've been after, and get the grinder, and then I've got a much better sharpening solution. But check that out. CBN stands for Kerber. So it's just a little hobby series grinder, but it's 10 times better than what I've got at the minute, and should be more than capable of running the CBN. I have finally bought a new compressor. You know, I've been after a new compressor for a while, and I've ended up going for the Swan. Man, it's so quiet. Let me just show you. Where's the remote? So I am about 5 foot away from the compressor. It's now running on full tilt, and as you can see, it's not exactly painfully loud. Oh, so quiet. 30 litre job. The only thing that worries me a little bit about this compressor is how open the motor is, because we've basically got a little fan here, and if I switch it on, so you can see the fan on there. Actually, I don't know if that's sucking or blowing. Let me... That sucks. But you can literally see into all the gubbins of the motor, so I'm a little bit nervous about the amount of dust that's going to get into this, especially since that's sucking air in. That's not the main air inlet, that's the main air inlet here. But even so, this is going to fill up with crud. So I think what I'm going to have to do is build an enclosure for it to stop this filling up with dust. But my old compressor wasn't particularly loud, but just by way of a comparison, air valve's open, so it's going to be hissing forever now. Compared to... So I need to run new airlines in, because my airlines that I've got in at the minute have completely disintegrated. Check it out. I don't know how they're even working anymore. Amazingly, air doesn't seem to be leaking out of these, but I don't particularly trust them. So I've got some new stuff ready to go in, and again I'm going to have this dangling down in the centre of the shop, hopefully along with the dust hose or near the dust hose, so that I can just hook up air tools dead easily from anywhere around the middle of the shop, so around there-ish. So it's a bit of chicken and egg of making sure that my new lights aren't going to get in the road of where the dust and the air lines are going to come down. Should be good once it's done though. I'll talk about these in a minute. With this being a vertical compressor, it takes up much less floor space than my horizontal compressor that I've got at the minute. What I'd quite like to do is build a box here to keep the compressor in, and then have a place for the dust collector here as well. But the problem is with this dust collector is that the hose obviously comes out straight to the side of the thing that you're going to have to empty. So taking the lid off this to empty it is a bit of a chew on, because, well, A, you've got to lift this off and then find somewhere to put it. But B, just turning this upside down means that this hose gets caught on everything. And if this is inside a cupboard, it's going to be even more awkward. So is it time to get a cyclone for it? I don't know. Pop in the comments if you reckon I should try and knock up some sort of cyclone thing. but obviously that's then going to take up even more space. But what I could do is have like some sort of enclosure. I would have to keep the dust thing separate from the compressor so that dust from the dust collector isn't getting into the compressor. But maybe I could build something here that comes upwards, that has the cyclone as part. I don't know. I've got all this stuff to sort through. Local joinery workshop had gone bust a long time ago, and they were having to clear out, and there was so much stuff destined for landfill. And to be honest, there still is, but most of it's just unusable. But I managed to get some quite nice SDS drill bits, quite good, decent quality SDS bits, 5.5mm. Plus all these. These are masonry drills for self-tapping concrete screws. Look at all these. Millions of them. Millions of spring toggles. Loads of brackets. All sorts. I need to find homes for all them. And I'll talk about them in a minute. One thing I did manage to find was loads of really nice mahogany. Check it out. These are just mahogany strips. I would have to plane off the ridges and maybe, I don't know, could use them for frames, picture framing maybe, or not sure. So we've got mahogany, that looks like, it still looks like mahogany. Oak, beech I think. Anyway, some nice strip wood. No idea what I'll use it for, mainly for hoarding. And then there was all these as well. These are like kick plates off the bottom of doors, but they're lovely polished stainless steel and just brand new. As I say, would have ended up in the tips, so it's nice to maybe try and find a home for it, but there's loads of these. These are quite expensive, good quality. I'll use them for a project at some point. They're nice and flat and easy to store. Heavy, really heavy. So I think it's time to have a bit of a tidy up, because at the minute I can't do anything in this shop because I'm just going to end up tripping over literally everything. I need to fit some new wheels onto my daughter's scooter because she keeps doing skids and the back wheel is like almost triangular shaped now. That takes priority over everything. Anyway, film the endy bit. There you go, lots to do. I best crack on because I've got a bigger job I need to get on with, and at the minute I can't do anything because there's just stuff everywhere. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the compressor temporarily hooked up, at least so that I've got a functional compressor that's not about to explode. And then everything else I'm going to pack away and put to one side, and I'll tackle it all after I've got some of these bigger jobs out the road. And then I don't have to worry as much that I'm not going to have time to finish those jobs. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell if you don't already have the notification bell switched on. If you do have it switched on, don't hit it because then you'll switch it off. Many more videos in the pipeline. But as I've said before, taking my time over them. I'm going to nurture my videos and they will take as long as they take.